Trump reignites row with nasty Sadiq Khan as Starmer responds. Donald Trump has reignited his row with London Mayor Sir Sadiq Khan after calling him a nasty person who has done a terrible job. During an hour-long news conference with Sir Keir Starmer in Scotland, the US president hit out at the Labour mayor, who has responded with his own snipey remarks. Asked if he would visit London during his state visit in September, Mr. Trump said, "I will. I'm not a fan of your mayor. I think he's done a terrible job. A nasty person, I think." The Prime Minister then interrupted and said, "He's a friend of mine." But the president added, "I think he's done a terrible job, but I will certainly visit London, I hope so." Sir Sadiq's spokesperson then released a statement saying, "Sadiq is delighted that President Trump wants to come to the greatest city in the world. He'd see how our diversity makes us stronger, not weaker, richer, not poorer." Perhaps these are the reasons why a record number of Americans have applied for British citizenship under his presidency. They noted that Sir Sadiq has won 3 mayoral elections, including when Mr. Trump lost the US election in 2020. This is not the first time Mr. Trump and Sir Sadiq have locked horns. During his first presidential term, Mr. Trump called the London mayor a stone-cold loser who should focus on crime in London. Sir Sadiq then described Mr. Trump as a poster boy for racists. And in November 2024, after Mr. Trump won his second term, Sir Sadiq said many Londoners would be fearful about what it would mean for democracy. However, as Sir Keir tried to show diplomacy with Mr. Trump after becoming PM, Sir Sadiq said he wanted to work closely with the American president ahead of his inauguration in January. The London mayor said, "As somebody who believes in democracy and voting in elections, we should recognize the fact that Donald Trump is the elected president of the United States." But he added, "Let's keep our fingers crossed that this president is different from the last time he was president." Diddy Combs asks judge to release him on $50 million bond as he awaits sentencing. Disgraced hip-hop mogul Sean Diddy Combs has asked a judge to release him on a $50 million bond as he waits to be sentenced for prostitution-related offenses. Combs's lawyer has argued that conditions at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn are dangerous and noted that others convicted of similar offenses were typically released before sentencing. Sean Combs should not be in jail for this conduct. In fact, he may be the only person currently in a United States jail for being any sort of John, and certainly the only person in jail for hiring adult male escorts for him and his girlfriend, Mark Agnifilo said in a court filing. A John in the US is a slang term for somebody who hires a prostitute. A spokesperson for the US Attorney's Office in Manhattan did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Prosecutors have previously insisted he remains a flight risk and should therefore not be granted bail. The 55-year-old, one of the most influential hip-hop producers of all time, faces up to a decade in prison after he was convicted earlier this month of 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution. The charges relate to how he flew people around the US, including his girlfriends and male sex workers, for sexual encounters. Combs was cleared of 3 more serious charges, 2 for sex trafficking and 1 for racketeering conspiracy following his landmark trial in New York. A conviction on one of those charges could have put him in prison for life. Immediately after he was acquitted of those charges on July 2, Mr. Agnifilo had asked that Combs be released on bond. But Judge Arun Subramanian denied it, saying Combs at the time had not met the burden of showing by clear and convincing evidence a lack of danger to any person or the community. Combs is the latest celebrity inmate to be locked up at MDC Brooklyn, the only federal jail in New York City, joining a list that includes R. Kelly, Ghislaine Maxwell, and cryptocurrency fraudster Sam Bankman-Fried. The boy, 12 years old, terrified someone else will die due to brain-eating amoeba. The parents of a 12-year-old boy who died due to a brain-eating amoeba say they are terrified it will happen to someone else. Jason Carr died 2 weeks after swimming in one of South Carolina's most popular lakes, when the single-celled organism Naegleria fowleri entered his body through his nose. His parents say they had no idea the organism, also known as the brain-eating amoeba, existed in Lake Murray, around 24 kilometers west of Columbia. I can't believe we don't have our son. The result of him being a child was losing his life. That does not sit well. And I am terrified it will happen to someone else. My son lost his life swimming. We assumed it was safe, Clarence Carr told the Associated Press, AP. Friends invited Jason and his family to the lake on the July 4th holiday weekend, where he spent hours swimming, fishing and riding on an inner tube that was being pulled by a boat. A few days later, Jason suffered headaches which got worse and then became nauseous, disoriented and lethargic. The amoeba was in his brain, already causing an infection and destroying brain tissue. It entered his nose, as he played in the water, and traveled along his olfactory nerve into his brain. The amoeba caused an infection called primary amoebic meningoencephalitis. Fewer than 10 people a year get it in the US, and more than 95% of them die, according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC. A 2-year-old boy died from the same infection in Nevada, after visiting a natural hot spring in July 2023, while in the same month, a swimmer from Georgia also died. Among other incidents, one in March 2023 involved a man from Florida who died after rinsing his nose with tap water, and in August 2022, a child died after swimming in the Elkhorn River in eastern Nebraska. The amoeba is found in warm water. It cannot move from one person to another. Mr. Carr has questioned whether anyone on the lake had any clue about the danger in that water. There are entire families out there on pontoon boats, jumping off, just like our kids were having the time of their lives. It very well could be their last moments, and they are unaware of it, he said. Companies who pay suppliers late fined. Companies which continually pay their suppliers late will face fines worth potentially millions of pounds, the Prime Minister has announced. Sir Keir Starmer said it's time to pay up as the government is set to unveil plans to give the Small Business Commissioner powers to fine large companies that persistently pay their suppliers late. Under the new legislation, businesses will have to pay their suppliers within 30 days of receiving a valid invoice, unless otherwise agreed, with spot checks to help identify breaches. Maximum payment terms of 60 days, reducing to 45 days, will also be introduced as part of the legislation to ensure businesses are paid on time. Late payments cost the UK economy £11 billion a year and shut down 38 businesses a day, the government said. The new law will save small and medium businesses time so they can focus on growing their revenue, it added. Sir Keir said, from builders and electricians to freelance designers and manufacturers, too many hardworking people are being forced to spend precious hours chasing payments instead of doing what they do best, growing their businesses. It's unfair, it's exhausting, and it's holding Britain back. So, our message is clear, it's time to pay up. Through our small business plan, we're not only tackling the scourge of late payments once and for all, but we're giving small business owners the backing and stability they need for their business to thrive, driving growth across the country through our plan for change. The late payment crackdown is part of a wider government package, including a move to pump £4 billion of financial support into small business startups and growth. This will include £1 billion for new firms, with 69,000 startup loans and mentoring support. The Conservatives said the crackdown will be welcome, but fails to address the 218,000 businesses that have closed under Labour. Andrew Griffith, the Tory shadow business secretary, added, the reality for businesses under Labour is a doubling of business rates, a £25 billion jobs tax and a full-on strangulation of employment red tape. Only the Conservatives are on the side of the makers and will support businesses across Britain to create jobs and wealth. Chancellor Rachel Reeves has increased employers' national insurance, raised the minimum wage and lowered the threshold at which employers' national insurance is paid. The Resolution Foundation said this hits the cost of low-paid and part-time workers the most. Trump's 2 nuclear subs to be moved closer to Russia. Donald Trump says he has ordered 2 nuclear submarines to be positioned in the appropriate regions in a row with former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev. It comes after Mr. Medvedev, who is now deputy chair of Russia's Security Council, told the U.S. president on Thursday to remember Moscow had Soviet-era nuclear strike capabilities of last resort. On Thursday, Mr. Trump wrote on social media, based on the highly provocative statements of the former president of Russia, Dmitry Medvedev, who is now the deputy chairman of the Security Council of the Russian Federation, I have ordered 2 nuclear submarines to be positioned in the appropriate regions, just in case these foolish and inflammatory statements are more than just that. Words are very important and can often lead to unintended consequences. I hope this will not be one of those instances. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Speaking outside the White House later, Mr. Trump was asked about why he had moved the submarines and replied, "We had to do that. We just have to be careful. A threat was made and we didn't think it was appropriate, so I have to be very careful. So I do that on the basis of safety for our people. A threat was made by a former president of Russia and we're going to protect our people." The spat between Mr. Trump and Mr. Medvedev came after the U.S. president warned Russia on Tuesday it had 10 days from today to agree to a ceasefire in Ukraine or face tariffs, along with its oil buyers. Moscow has shown no sign that it will agree to Mr. Trump's demands. On Thursday, Mr. Medvedev reminded Mr. Trump that Russia possessed a Soviet-era automated nuclear retaliatory system or dead hand. Mr. Medvedev, a close ally of Russian President Vladimir Putin, was referring to a secretive semi-automated Soviet command system designed to launch Russia's missiles if its leadership was taken out in a decapitating strike. He made the remarks after Mr. Trump told him to watch his words after Mr. Medvedev said the U.S. president's threat of hitting Russia and its oil buyers with punitive tariffs was a game of ultimatums and added that each new ultimatum is a threat and a step towards war between Russia and the U.S. Mr. Medvedev served as Russia's president from 2008 and 2012, when Mr. Putin was barred from seeking a 3rd consecutive term, but then stepped aside to let him run again. As deputy chair of Russia's Security Council, he has become known for his provocative and inflammatory statements since Moscow invaded Ukraine in 2022. Number of drone incidents in prisons rises by more than 40%, figures show. The number of drone incidents in prisons rose by 43% in a year, according to new government data. In the 12 months to March, there were 1,712 drone incidents at prisons across England and Wales, compared to 1,196 the year before. The latest figures represent a new peak. The ingress of drones into prisons, carrying drugs and weapons, has become an increasing problem for the prison service. In the same dataset, there were over 26,000 incidents of drug finds inside jails, an increase of 25% on the previous year, and more than 13,000 weapons. Earlier this month, the chief inspector of prisons warned that drone technology is becoming so sophisticated that it's a theoretical possibility that a prisoner could be lifted out of jail by a drone in the near future. In its annual report in July, the prison's watchdog said drones were sending overwhelming amounts of illicit items into jails, representing a threat to national security. The report reiterated concerns about regular deliveries into Category A jails in Worcestershire and Manchester, which hold the most dangerous men in the country, including terrorists. The technology allows for drone pilots to be operating the aircraft from abroad, making it difficult for authorities to track them down or make arrests. The prisons minister, Lord Timpson, says the government are tackling the organized crime gangs behind the drug supply routes so that prisons can start cutting crime and stop creating better criminals. It's part of a nationwide crackdown on drone drops into prisons, backed by £900,000 of funding. They had previously announced £40 million for increased security measures, including exterior netting and reinforced windows. Detectives say they are coordinating work with prisons and the National Crime Agency to disrupt criminal behavior and prevent contraband from entering the prison estate. By sharing intelligence and coordinating operations, we are strengthening our collective response to this growing threat, said Claire Maguire from the Northwest Regional Crime Unit.